The Metroidvania genre is such a unique blend of genres. How it came about and what it influenced is an interesting subject for gaming enthusiasts to look up and relish. However, today we're looking at the top 10 Metroidvania games that came about from this unique subgenre. Strider is an old series that began with an arcade game, but the original was rebooted in 2014 as a new game simply called Strider, that takes Metroid-like gameplay to heart. Strider places you in an open environment to explore on your way to take down Grandmaster Mayo, but you'll obtain many new skills along the way. These skills let you overcome new obstacles, unlock specific types of doors, and so on. You'll pass many areas you can't access early on, but you won't often need to backtrack in order to finish the game. Instead, these areas usually contain secrets and upgrades. Strider definitely has a Metroid-like approach to exploration, even if its overall design doesn't fully fit the Metroidvania bill. Guacamelee, which was re-released with its DLC as Guacamelee Gold Edition, and then again with new content as Guacamelee Super Turbo Championship Edition, is a bit more straightforward and linear in its design than most Metroidvania games. It stars Juan, a luchador fighting to rescue El Presidente's daughter from an evil skeleton, and he needs to learn many abilities in order to complete his quest. For example, Juan can learn to wall jump, or as a less typical example, he can move between the world of the living and the world of the dead, which is required to solve certain puzzles. Like with Strider, you won't often have to backtrack to proceed. However, there are plenty of optional chests to find if you make full use of your upgrades. Dust: An Elysian Tale is a 2D side-scrolling platformer and an action RPG, and it mixes in some Metroidvania elements along the way. Set in a world of anthropomorphic animals, it stars an amnesiac character named Dust, seeking answers about his own identity while travelling with a bat-like ally named Fidget and a talking sword named Ara. While you increase your stats by battling and levelling up, like in most RPGs, you also find upgrades that teach you new abilities. These abilities, such as being able to slide through narrow tunnels, are required to progress with the game. However, like with our first two examples, you rarely have to revisit old locations to move forward. Nevertheless, early areas are sprinkled with hidden treasure you can only access with later skills. If you want a light amount of Metroid-like exploration in an action RPG, Dust: An Elysian Tale blends the two. Do Strider, Guacamelee, and Dust sound a bit too easy for you? Are you looking for something a bit less straightforward? Something that will provide a greater challenge? Then you should look into La-Mulana, considered by many fans to be the hardest Metroidvania ever made. Inspired by the old MSX games, La-Mulana stars an Indiana Jones-esque adventurer named Lemisa. Lemisa only has a whip at the start of the game, but can gain new abilities that open up access to new areas. It is filled with traps, dead ends, and other features meant to increase the difficulty, although its remake toned it down slightly. Some fans of the genre argue that La-Mulana's gameplay doesn't actually fit the criteria for being considered a Metroidvania, but nevertheless, if you're looking for a more difficult platformer with elements similar to those found in Metroid and Castlevania, La-Mulana might be just what you need. Salt and Sanctuary is often described as 2D Dark Souls. So what is it doing on a Metroidvania list? As it happens, in addition to the elements that give it such a Dark Souls feel, aspects of its exploration call to mind Metroidvania games, especially Symphony of the Night. Salt and Sanctuary places you on a mysterious island. Its strange locations are all connected, with shortcuts you can unlock. While the majority of it plays similar to a Souls game, there are some areas you can't reach until you unlock new abilities, such as wall jumping for example. It received high praise from players and is generally considered one of the best new games both the Souls-like and Metroidvania genres have to offer. If you're interested in those gameplay styles and don't mind that it skews a little more towards Souls than Metroidvania, Salt and Sanctuary is a must-play. The Shantae series has been around since 2002, with 3 entries that combine adventure platformer gameplay with some Metroidvania elements. To be specific, although the main character visits multiple dungeons instead of exploring a single, sprawling environment, she learns dances that let her access new locations. For example, one dance transforms her into a monkey that can climb up walls. Shantae is a half genie, which is why this makes sense. Both the original Shantae and the most recent one, Shantae and the Pirate's Curse, are worth a look, but Shantae, Risky's Revenge, might be the one that makes the best use of the Metroid style. It features a connected world, solid platforming, and exploration inspired by Metroid and Castlevania. A 4th game, Shantae, Half Genie Hero, is due out later this year. A lot of these games include Metroidvania elements without embracing its formula, so let's move on to some stricter interpretations of the genre. Xeodrifter puts you in the shoes of an astronaut with a damaged ship, and you must visit 4 planets to repair it. While you can go to the planets in any order, your exploration will be limited until you find upgrades that let you progress. It was heavily inspired by the Metroid series, and that shows through in every aspect of its design. Its map, structure, and general gameplay are Metroid, through and through, to the point where one of the criticisms against it is that it didn't innovate enough. Xeodrifter also suffers from a short-length, repetitive boss battles, and what some players consider a frustrating amount of backtracking. Nevertheless, it has Metroid-like gameplay at its core, even if we don't place it among the top 3. Many players consider Shadow Complex to be one of the best modern games that really captures that Metroid style. It's a 2.5D game that stars a character named Jason, who finds a massive underground military complex while searching for his girlfriend. As you explore the complex and fight enemies, new abilities and weapons will let you access new areas. You'll also gain different bonuses by leveling up. The game was greatly inspired by Super Metroid, and the development team studied the Metroid games in order to make proper use of that style of gameplay. They also followed Super Metroid's example of minimalistic storytelling. However, for fans of Shadow Complex's world and story, the rights were licensed to Orson Scott Card for the novels Empire and Hidden Empire. Shadow Complex is a fast-paced game, with a shooting system that lets you shoot enemies in the background and foreground, taking advantage of its 2.5D nature. While the action and techno-thriller setting might not be for everyone, this is one game that makes excellent use of its Super Metroid inspirations. Ori and the Blind Forest is a beautiful game, and a good Metroidvania. You play as a white guardian spirit named Ori, and his companion Sane, who can shoot out spirit flames. It is a solid platformer with a large world that opens up as you learn new abilities. It also features skill upgrades and an interesting checkpoint system where you must spend your limited supply of energy to create soul links. Challenging gameplay, tight controls, a beautiful world, creative puzzle solving, and enjoyable storytelling made Ori an instant favourite for many players. One problem with the original release, however, not only frustrated players, but also conflicted with its Metroid inspirations. You couldn't revisit some of the previous areas, in sharp contrast to the backtracking experienced from Metroidvania. Fortunately, this was adjusted in Ori and the Blind Forest Definitive Edition, which introduced fast travel and lets you revisit locations that were blocked in the original game. The Definitive Edition also added new areas and tweaked some aspects, making it the, well, definitive way to experience this Metroidvania. All of the games on this list so far are solid Metroidvania experiences, but none could take the top spot. Some only have a few elements of the genre, some are repetitious, some have notable flaws. So what game overcomes all of this to be our top pick for the #1 Metroidvania game? It may not be the best pick if you prefer the Vania side of Metroidvania, but if you're looking for a fantastic 2D Metroid experience, AXION Verge is the way to go. It is a 2D platformer focused on exploration and combat, and it is one of the most praised games in the genre to come out in recent years. You play as a scientist who is accidentally transported to a strange alien world, and the map, gameplay, and aesthetics all call Metroid to mind. You will want to explore for upgrades and power-ups, as well as, of course, special abilities that let you enter new locations. These abilities range from traditional techniques like turning into a ball to access tight passages, to more unique ones like manipulating glitches. If you love speedrunning these sorts of games, the Wii U version even includes a special speedrun mode adjusted for that gameplay style. AXION Verge is a Metroidvania that expands upon and innovates the genre, bringing unique experiences to the familiar formula. There are many fantastic Metroid-like games out there, but we'll think you'll be hard-pressed to find one better than AXION Verge. I hope you enjoyed this week's list, and if you did, leave a like. And if you want to see more lists now, click here for my top 10 recent games infamous for negative reception, or here for the top 10 bizarre survival horror puzzles. And if you want to see more in the future, subscribe.